My favorite thing about me engaging with Taylor Swift is that I listen to Taylor Swift as if it is the 1990s, which is actually awesome because I don't know of any of the songs until they're singles. I heard Karma, and to me, it was a brand new song.
You know, that was literally in my top 10
That
songs
song?
of 2020.
Didn't listen to it. I was like, that seems great. I'll hear it when it's a single. And I heard it when it was a single, and I was like, damn, that song's amazing. It really is, like, literally just for Taylor Swift. She is the only artist that I engage with this way. I engage with her literally as if it is the 1990s. I do not know the songs until they're singles.
Karma, Tristan's version.
It's kind of fun, though, right? I feel like I'm, like, back into, like, V1 music listening.
Music is probably less fun than it used to be in the 1990s, so that you may be onto something.
Yeah. Stop listening to Spotify. Start listening to the radio. As a person who's never had a song on pop radio, except for my artist. When you're listening to the new Illuminati Hottie song Truck out July 19th, listen to that on Spotify because it's not going to be on pop radio.
You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 372 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And we are coming to you from Renton, Washington's home of the Super Bowl 48 champion Seattle Seahawks.
It's an important episode.
It is.
It's the Michael Bennett edition, baby.
You're damned right it is.
Maybe, I feel like if you had to go through, Mateo had me draft my favorite players of all time. Wide receivers, we picked, not favorite, he was like, can we do an all-time team?
Okay.
He drafted Jerry Rice. God, who else was? Oh, Cooper Kupp was a wide receiver for him. I can't remember who the third one was.
How does Mateo know Jerry Rice?
He knows all sorts of old baseball or old football players.
Okay.
I of course went Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I knew that. I mean, obviously that being on the Pelton quotes today refreshed my memory. But
And I was like, I got to go with my dog DJ Hackett.
what? That's
Yeah.
a choice.
And then I really I sweated. I thought about it hard. And I was like, is it Bobby Ingram or is it Joe Juravicious? Which one is it?
Wow,
But I
it's
was
gotta
like,
be Bobby Ingram.
when we got to pass rush, he drafted Lamar Jackson as a pass rusher. Look, we're still working.
Did he mean Lamar Smith?
No. I was like, you already drafted Mahomes as your quarterback, dude. He was like, he could rush the passer. And I'm like, he cannot. There is only one man who can rush the passer. And his name is Michael Bennett. Thank you.
Well, the Seahawks may not have rushed the passer well since Michael Bennett was here. You know what, though? This is not the Walter Jones episode. That was last week.
Mm-hmm.
But did you know I managed to get Walter Jones on ESPN.com this week?
You did?
I did.
How?
In an NBA column.
How?
There was an offer sheet made by the Utah Jazz to B-Ball Paul Reed, who, if he wasn't one of the players to watch, I'm going to be shocked.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
he seems like the only way he could be more of a player to watch is if he were Serbian and played for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, the Nuggets, yeah. Mhm.
But the Jazz signed him to an offer sheet that guaranteed the following 2 seasons only if his team reaches the conference semifinals next year.
Okay.
So the Jazz are not very likely to make the conference semifinals next year. The Sixers, who have done this either 5 of the last 6 years, are very likely to. It's also funny that they put that and not the conference finals because they have been eliminated in the conference semifinals every time they've been there.
So the NBA just figured out poison pill contracts.
They just got
learned
to the Walter Jones,
of
Steve Hutchinson.
Steve Hutchinson,
Yeah.
Nate Burleson.
Somehow they had not figured this out in all these years.
Wow. Welcome to 2005 at NBA.
Very rare you find a situation where the NBA is behind the NFL on contracts. This is the last one of them.
What does Walt Jones have to do with it though? Because that's a Steve Hutchinson thing.
Well, you understand what the provision was in the Steve Hutchinson contract. It was something that
I
is
thought it
not
was
legal in
games
the
played
NBA.
in the state of Minnesota.
No, that was in the Nate
Burleson.
Burleson.
It was games
the
played at left
revenge
tackle?
contract. No, it was he had to be the highest paid offensive tackle on the team,
Ah.
or the offensive lineman on the team, or the entire contract guaranteed. And Walter Jones obviously was making more.
Man.
So
wait, that deal that they signed, the NBA is going to get rid of this.
yeah,
Literally-
but they just did a new CBA. They have to wait like 6 years to get rid of it and have the Paul Reed rule.
Wow, the Paul Reed rule.
I know, and Paul Reed
This
was
is going
of
to be
course a
out
player
of
to watch
control.
in
Wow, are you
2000.
the first person to talk about how this is going to go nuts?
No.
Okay, it's going to go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You aren't the first person because
I'm the first person to talk about it
everybody
on a
talks
Seattle sports
about
podcast.
NBA transactions, not the games.
Oh, they're way more fun.
The people around the league were so excited about that one because it's just following transactions. They should be the text-based NBA.
I don't know if they've considered that one. It would really cut down on the carbon emissions.
Look, it's like when you're playing 2K. You don't actually play the games. You just sim through the games. You just do the transactions. NBA, all the fun parts.
Well, this is a carrot for anyone who followed us over because I referenced the fabulous Peltoncast on the Low Post
There we
earlier
go.
this week
Welcome to none of you.
in our discussion of the NBA Cup as part of the NBA in-season tournament, which I believe I did not actually do the research of looking up the NBA Cup, but based on I did see a cup trotted out in Las Vegas at the NBA Summer League. I assume it was the NBA Cup, so it is
already
a
got the cup
legitimate
done.
cup.
Is that the thing that we care about now? Is the NBA Cup?
Yeah, Evolis is already looking for a way to hone in on the NBA Cup action. There are no photos online of the NBA Cup.
That sure seems like the old Larry O'Brien trophy a lot of times.
But
We need more
no,
marketing for the
again,
NBA Cup.
They brought something out, and I saw it from the media section, and it was a cup. Maybe it's for the winner of the Summer League. I don't know. Maybe that's a cup.
Oh yeah, I'm down with
So-
cups for everything.
Well, speaking of drinking things,
Wow, that was a really good transition.
amazing transit.
Yeah.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
the Low Post listener. Our search for Seattle's best time. If you
Were you
probably
able to
really-
drop any of those on the Low Post? Zach Lowe could never.
you probably really enjoyed the Taylor Swift discussion at the top.
Aren't we going to drop that to the bottom?
Oh no!
We're leaving that at the
that's
top.
cold open.
Okay.
Our search for Seattle's best IPA continues this week with the creatively named Sea Pine IPA from our friends at Sea Pine Brewing. This is a West Coast style IPA with tremendous citrus aromas. Lighter in body and highly drinkable, finishes with a pleasant, non-harsh bitterness. Pairs excellently with spicy or salty foods. So there you go.
Okay, I'm just going to be real with you here. I think Sea Pine, I have a handful of breweries to me that are like, those are my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Those breweries. Holy Mountain, obviously number one, in my opinion. Very,
Has not yet been in this search.
but they do a lot of
Yeah, they don't
sour,
really specialize in IPAs.
They do a lot of sour beers. Cloudburst is number two. Even though I think every Cloudburst beer is amazing, they don't make a lot of beers that are in the category of beers that I love. But I know that Cloudburst, everything they do is such high quality.
Also, we want to get their brewmaster on the pod.
It's right around the corner from my office too. So the one time every 3 months that I go to the office, very easy to pick up. Sea Pine Brewery, to me. You said you had Sea Pine? It was the first time in this entire search, maybe aside from Georgetown, but Georgetown's kind of like an old staple.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Georgetown, the availability is so high.
Also, like you were like, oh, I wonder what I'm gonna think of Bodhisattva.
Exactly. Yes.
You're like, I drink that all the time.
You told me Sea Pine. If I'm at a bar and there's a bunch of taps or whatever, I will almost always go for the Sea Pine beer.
Interesting.
So
I don't feel like I've got a lot of Sea Pine experience. I know we've drank it on the pod previously, but I can't remember which
I
one.
couldn't pinpoint like, oh, I love this one Sea Pine beer.
Right.
Right. It's just like
An
as a
overall
brewery,
mark of quality.
I feel like it is a very high quality brewery. So I'm excited to try this one.
Oh, apparently we have not drank it on the pod at all because
This is our first ever Sea Pine time.
it's not in any of the notes at least. So maybe I forgot to send you the notes that week.
Well,
but
cheers.
yeah. Well, let's get to our toast because we have a number of them this week, having not recorded for like 9 days here. This could have been the traditional Peltoncast bye week, but too much was going on in Seattle sports for us to have a bye week.
We
Starting
would
with,
never,
with this
after that
predicament.
huge promotion on the Low Post.
Exactly. Yeah, we had to strike while the iron was hot, just like we have with Tuck and Tuck our time. Gonna record one of those.
This
again
beer is
someday.
this is straight at the top, right there, one sip.
This is
Put it
ahead of Bodhi?
it easily. Wow. This beer is
I haven't said
this is
it
the
yet.
most drinkable IPA we've
Okay.
had. This is good beer.
Well, we start with a congratulations to Megan Rapinoe, who announced her retirement effective at the end of the current NWSL season, ahead of representing the USA as part of the USWNT in the World Cup. The two-time World Cup champion who won the Golden Ball for the 2019 World Cup, as well as that year's Ballon d'Or as the best female player in the world, has played exclusively 4 OL reigns since the beginning of the NWSL in 2013, and is the franchise all-time leader in goals and assists, earning NWSL Best 11 honors once, Second 11 honors 5 times. And with Megan Rapinoe following the playbook of her fiancé Sue Bird, we're truly staring at the end of an era in Seattle sports.
I was wondering about this about Megan Rapinoe. So she's probably not the best USWNT player of all time.
No, probably not.
But it's in the conversation. Let me just throw this out there to you.
I think it's got to be Mia Hamm still, probably.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Whomever the best WMNT.
Your US, the W stands for women, so it's
USWNT. Sorry, it's a hard thing to say. USWNT player is.
Oh, I see.
Whomever that is the greatest American soccer player of all time.
Without question.
Probably Megan Rapinoe. The greatest American soccer players of all time.
How many American male Ballon d'Or winners do you think
That's what I'm
there
saying.
are?
Is the greatest American soccer players of all time. Probably 1 through 10 are all USWNT players.
Yeah,
right?
probably. Yeah.
So Megan Rapinoe is probably confidently, one of the 10 greatest American, probably even higher.
Yeah. Plausibly top 5.
This is not knowing enough about the history of the team.
I haven't sat down and crunched the numbers on this one.
So what I'm saying is that I think Megan Rapinoe is pretty confidently one of the 5 greatest American soccer players of all time.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big fucking country.
Yeah.
And it's been a country for a long time.
I mean, not as long as a lot of countries, but yes, relative to the start of soccer, which came after. Yes.
It's not a new country.
If we're talking about the top authors of all time, the U.S. has not existed that long.
I mean, look, still doing some numbers. Edgar Allan Poe, come on. Author, I don't know. All right. Doesn't Edgar Allan Poe, aside from being from Baltimore, seem British?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Really did not expect an Edgar Allan Poe reference on the
It's just you're in Baltimore and you're like, I'm at Edgar Allan Poe's grave or whatever. And you're like, wow, this British guy lived in Baltimore? Anyway, I think that is a very impressive feat to be one of the 5 greatest American soccer players of all time.
I was reflecting back on the first time I remember being aware of Megan Rapinoe, which was, of course, during, I believe that was the 2007 World Cup. If I'm dividing by 4 here correctly, going back.
It's the year after the Men's World Cup?
Yes.
Okay.
When she sang Born in the USA into one of the boom mics on the field.
Wow.
After
Born
scoring
down
a goal.
in a dead man's town.
So, I assume that was on the 4th of July. I have not double checked.
She sang the whole verse and everything. First kick I took was when I hit the ground.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was all of that.
Son, don't you understand?
On the 4th of July, I was on Whidbey Island, an island I have not previously visited, and went to a brewery shortly after arriving on Whidbey Island. And what was playing there?
Born in the USA.
Yeah,
I like that you're like, what a coincidence.
No, it wasn't like the whole album. It was just like that.
Christmas
that
Day.
song.
We Wish You a Merry Christmas was on. I couldn't believe it.
It was a random compilation of songs. It was not like a patriotic themed compilation, but that just happened to be there.
I'm gonna give that a maybe.
Okay.
Halloween night. You wouldn't believe this. I walk into a bar, and what song is playing? The Monster Mash of all the songs.
But anyways, that was a lot of World Cups ago.
That's for the Zach Lowe fans.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was 2011, not the 2007 World Cup.
This is very different than the Low Post.
Oh, it is wildly different. But the mascot for
You think Zach Lowe's ever had more than 2 beers in a night?
Yes, I'm sure at some point in his life he has, yes. Just not while doing a podcast. Was this on the 4th of July? No, sadly it was not. It was in late June. Wow. The whole story is ruined.
She was just getting excited about it.
Yeah, okay. Anticipating it. So,
and also, I guess I'm reading here, she didn't even sing all the verses.
I feel like you would
just the chorus.
I feel like you would get yellow carded for that. Time wasting.
She's like, wait.
Oh, I'm really warming up in the second verse. This first verse isn't going to be nearly as good. So, obviously, a major tribute for Rapinoe planned with after the Reigns, or as part of the Reigns final regular season home game on October 6th. And surely we'll have plenty of Megan Rapinoe content leading up to that.
All right.
Sadly, not as personal as the Sue Bird content in this case.
We'll see.
I doubt I'm going to play trivia with Megan Rapinoe at any point between now and October 6th.
There's time.
There is. I can't rule it out. Staying on the Reign theme and the World Cup theme, congrats to Jordan Heidema and Quinn, who were officially named to Canada's roster for the World Cup. No surprises, both were key parts of the squad that won gold in the Tokyo Olympics 2 years ago.
We let the Canadians win?
We did. All right, congrats to George Kirby and Julio Rodriguez, who were named after we discussed the Mariners only having one representative in the All-Star game to the AL
They
All-Star
went out
teams.
of their way to make sure. Like, there were a lot of teams who only had one representative, and it was like they looked at the list of representatives, and quality of performance and being from Seattle were not weighed equally.
Well, it also, saved on travel. This is quite good, the Sea Pine IPA.
Yeah. But I think George Kirby and Julio both were deserving.
Yeah.
That's not a question mark for them, but it was like they were going to do whatever they could. The All-Star game is a marketing event.
It is.
And having Seattle players give up runs in Seattle in front of that home crowd, that's an important event. Drawing walks.
Feel at home. It was the first appearance for Kirby, obviously the second in as many years for Julio, who had a walk in his 2 plate appearances. As you referenced, Kirby pitched 1 inning, gave up a run on a Luis Arraez single, as the AL ultimately lost 3-2 on Tuesday night at T-Mobile Park.
I will say my favorite thing about I haven't watched that many All-Star games. I'm kind of on and off on the All-Star game.
A lot in the 90s.
Oh, I remembered actually this was a TikTok, not a thing that I saw yesterday, but the Ted Williams All-Star game in 99.
Yeah.
I remember watching that live. Like there are a few that I'm like, I remember that moment.
I really have a memory. I believe it was 94 in like Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, and it may have gone to extra innings.
After Mariners games this week, they've just been showing old home run derbies, and it was like Ken Griffey Jr. won with 7 home runs.
Well, the rules were very
I know,
different.
it's hilarious where they're like Ken Griffey Jr. hit a whopping 8 home runs in this one.
That'll never be topped. Oh, believe me, I have some takes on the format of the home run derby.
But I do appreciate that everybody is mostly trying as hard as they can at baseball in the game.
Three River Stadium in Pittsburgh.
It was Pittsburgh. I watched the
1994.
home run derby there. I was going to correct you on that, but I wasn't confident enough.
It was a 10-inning game, and L1 walked it off in the bottom of the 10th, 8-7.
I saw that home run derby. Ken Griffey Jr. won it with 7 home runs.
Did he have 8 in 93?
I don't know. He might have had more. But they also just did 1 round. It was just like everybody had their shot. 10 outs.
All right, hold on. Let's do the next toast then.
Okay.
Congratulations to Julio Rodriguez and hitting a record 41 home runs
So ridiculous.
in the opening round of Monday's Home Run Derby. Again, led all hitters in the first round, but did not win, losing to eventual champion Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a score of 20 in the semifinals.
What is your take on this?
This format sucks. The moment of the night was Julio hitting the 41 home runs. That's what everyone who was there was going to remember.
Yeah.
You have to make the best moment also what determines the actual event. Like, it can't peak in the first round.
So you feel like they should Costanza just go out on top? Julio
Yeah.
hit the 41 home runs and just end the home run derby?
I don't know if you necessarily do that.
Whenever Commissioner Rob Manfred determines that the home run derby has reached its peak, it then ends, whether batters have hit or not.
We definitely need Rob Manfred to have more power.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
That's All-Star games, and Rob Manfred choosing to end them has really worked out well for this.
Was that Manfred or was that back in the butt ceiling?
I think that's Rob Manfred. I think he was the one who called it a tie.
Right, we're now going to have to do more research here on the fly.
So you're saying you think they should do the format? I mean, 3 rounds is just a lot of rounds.
So many rounds, way too many rounds. Like, people
That
get
All-Star game
tired.
takes 3 fucking hours now. It was kind of bonkers
The home
how
run
long
derby,
it takes.
you mean?
Or the home run derby.
The All-Star game was played less than 3 hours, wasn't
The
it?
All-Star game was like about 3 hours. But the home run derby takes almost as much time as the All-Star game takes now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that...
The 2.5 minute format, like, as they do it, I would be okay with 2 rounds, But I kind of like the idea of the format that they have. Give him one round, hit as many home runs as you can. That's it.
Yeah.
Why do you need 2 rounds? Is there anything that is inherently like demonstrative of your ability to hit home runs by being look, I love Randy Arozarena, and I think he's obviously like one of the most exciting baseball players there is. I'll tell you about him later. You don't know who he is.
I'm
but
familiar with the name. he had some sort of exciting play in the playoffs. Like
well, he played for Mexico in the World Baseball Classic and was exciting. But
there was some sort of like steal of home or something along those lines.
Randy Arozarena, his strategy was not necessarily about like hitting the most home runs. It shouldn't be that much of a strategy game. It should just be like who can hit the most home runs.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
The other thing, I was thinking of this too, that the MLB does right versus the NBA. The dunk contest has exclusively players I've never heard of.
Well,
look, you probably don't even remember the white guy who won this year.
I remember Mac McClung.
I remember that name too.
But like, have you seen the crossover grid thing?
No.
It's out there. It's like in various different sports. I think may have started in MLB.
What crossover grid?
So like basically they'll say Mariners and Orioles, and you have to name someone who played for both of those teams.
Immaculate Grid, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In the NBA knockoff version, it's called crossover grid.
Okay.
And obviously
God, you're so NBA pilled that you have to talk to me about the knockoff version.
Oh, I forgot that it was called Immaculate Grid. Okay.
I know what Immaculate Grid is. I literally thought you were talking about the crossover tournament with Jamal Crawford.
It's later in the toes. It's later in the toes. Oh, man. If they could come up with a more complicated scheduling format based on the Home Run Derby, you would name Rich Amaral, obviously. And it would pop up 0.1%.
Yeah.
I've named that. So one of them was like slam dunk contest participant.
Okay.
And the team was the Utah Jazz. And they had a player win the slam dunk contest. And within the last 10 years, zero memory of that.
Who was it?
Jeremy Evans. I may have even been there for the Jeremy Evans dunk contest, and it is gone.
I mean, it's not like you remember who wins the Home Run Derby. Last year, I was
True.
like, I don't know. Somebody won it. I know that Ken Griffey Jr. has won it, and I know that Pete Alonso has won it. I didn't watch, but people have told me that he's won it multiple times.
Someone asked me Tuesday night afterwards who won the Home Run Derby, and I was like, look, my interest in the Home Run Derby faded the second that Julio was eliminated.
I mean, I remember who won this year, 2 days ago.
I had seen a headline that Vlad Jr. had joined his dad in winning it, which that was very cool.
It wasn't that cool. But also,
it would have been much cooler.
The
if you
moment in the stadium, like for a second, I was like, damn, I probably should have tried to go. And then when Julio was eliminated, I was like, this sucks. Fuck the Home Run Derby. It's like my interest in the Home Run Derby extends to Julio being a participant in it.
Wow, Arozarena had 3 home runs in the World Series as a rookie? That's pretty impressive.
He's like the coolest player of all time. He's up there.
Disrespectful to Ken Griffey Jr.
And Julio. He's the 3rd coolest player of all time.
The coolest non-Mariners center fielder.
One Haggerty.
He also qualifies as a Mariners center fielder.
Anyway, yeah, the format's bullshit.
Yeah.
But also, 41 home runs?
He was just, it was so impressive to watch.
I don't like Julio there was a thing where, I can't remember what they were talking about. They were talking about perfect games. And to me, I always think Andres Galarraga, is that the right name? Not Andres Galarraga.
Armando Galarraga.
Has like one of the most impressive perfect games of all time.
By the way, it was 2002 was the MLB All-Star Game tie. That was way back in the Bud Selig era.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh. This is the dead ball era to me. Baseball from like 1999 through 2000 when was Jose Reyes good? I started playing fantasy baseball in like 2007. So I've got I dipped in for a second and then I'm back out till 2021.
It was the Robinson Cano hot second.
I know about Jimmy Rollins and Jose Reyes. Anyway. Whatever.
I lost my train of thought.
It doesn't matter. It sucks being because over time, those impressive moments, we will remember them. But being the champion, like the stories in the future, there's going to be an erasure of, they'll talk about the biggest rounds. And so we'll still see Julio there.
Yeah.
But the champion does matter.
It does.
So not that it doesn't matter. Literally nothing matters. I've covered this a lot. But
To the new listeners from the Low Pod, this is Peltoncast. By the way, check out if you somehow managed to hang in there this long, check out the Peltoncast glossary. I don't know if we have Peltoncast nihilism on there, but we may need to add it.
You understand what I'm saying, though? That being the champion, like Vlad and his dad, those things matter. And it would be nice for Julio to win a championship.
I agree.
So, yeah, those are the two things. I will say, I'll give it up to baseball. They've got people trying in their All-Star game, and they've got good players in their home run derby. Luis Robert got hurt. We'll see if they have good players next year. But they always seem to.
All right, well, you mentioned
hitters aren't scared. NBA players are scared. That's what it is, because it's a fucking internet league. Oh my God. It comes back to what I was talking about earlier. It is all about the fucking text-based league. Because people can't, their NBA players are so scared of Twitter fingers. If Julio loses in the second round, he's not like, wow, I'm going to get roasted on Twitter for this. But if there's an NBA...
I don't think it's that.
No,
I think it's just there's no
all-star
upside.
players. If there were all-star... What is the upside for winning the home run derby?
But, like, baseball players are inherently unfamous. NBA players are inherently famous.
I don't know
so
if
maybe
that's
a
exactly
difference.
true.
I mean, I suppose Julio is now in T-Mobile ads, but, like...
I've got a fucking cereal box with Julio Rodriguez on it, and he didn't win the home run derby. And guess what? No one cares. It's not like people were like, wow, Julio Rodriguez is a joke. He couldn't even win the home run derby.
But that's my point, is because of the fact that people aren't like, Julio Rodriguez must be the most amazing home run derby participant of all time. Whereas people have these imagined grandiose notions of what LeBron James would do in the dunk contest that are not in any way correlated to what LeBron James would actually do in the dunk contest. It's basically like the expectations that were on Wemby before his game last Friday.
Maybe.
Like, he would have had to like score 50 points and grab 30 rebounds and block 20 shots and score while doing a handstand for anyone to like be satisfied.
And nobody even watched it. Nobody was paying attention. They just wanted to read the tweets about it. Maybe having a tweet-based sport is not the best thing.
Many people had showed up to in attendance at the arena. Let me tell you,
there
that.
was 8,000 strong. What, in the smallest arena?
It was, no, I think they sold 17,000.
Is it at the real arena, or is it still at UNLV?
It's still at UNLV, but
They
that's
sell
a big.
17,000 tickets there.
I mean, that also includes because they have the two gyms.
Is Tark still coaching?
R.I.P. Jerry Tarkanian.
Man, you understand what I'm saying?
You know, I was looking at the
all
banners.
of the good players participate in the dunk contest,
I agree,
it
would
wouldn't
be better.
matter. If LeBron James loses to Vince Carter in the dunk contest, nobody's like, wow, LeBron James is a joke.
I think that actually many people would. I'd encourage you to look at the internet.
Participate in the discourse.
No. I would actually encourage you not to. I would encourage everyone to opt out of it. So we're nearing the half-hour mark and still on our toes. The crossover begins play
There we
this
go.
weekend at
You're just
SPU.
skipping that Sounders.
No, we're going to come back to that,
Okay.
but I just wanted to mention the crossover since you brought it up in reference to the crossover grid. The crossover grid, we'll be debuting that website soon. It's played for the names of the teams in the crossover and then real NBA teams. You have to name
Crossover
some.
grid. That's actually what the NBA one's called. I would do way better at that than in the baseball one.
I'm sure you would. Lastly, this week, congratulations to Leo Chu, named MLS Player of the Match Day after scoring a pair of goals in the Sounders' 3-2 win at Vancouver on Saturday. All right, do we want to talk Vegas food?
I mean, you tell me. I wasn't in Vegas.
So
I was relatively recently.
I went to Best Friend back-to-back nights.
Are you kidding me?
It was very convenient. I happened to be staying in the Park MGM those 2 nights.
You were
so-
staying at the hotel?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you stayed in a different, like some weird hotel.
Well, I started at the favorite of NBA writers.
Where's that?
It's off the Strip.
I'm sure it's horrible if it's a favorite of NBA writers, but sorry, Low Post fans. They're all really good, really cool people.
I don't know if that's a low post for the listener.
This is my favorite bit we've done yet.
We had multiple low post guests hanging out there, though. Tim Bontemps
Did you?
and
You and Tim Bond. Dope. Seems like a dope spot. Anyway, you went to the Park MGM after, and then you went to Best Friend 2 days in a row. What did you get?
It's actually great because I was really able to explore the studio space on the menu.
How much more?
A lot more.
What else?
The first night, I was responsible for ordering for the table because I was the only one who had been there previously.
Okay, what'd you go
and
for?
got rave reviews off of my order. I think I still
Well,
have
you're
the
kind of
notes.
cheating a little bit. You know what I mean?
Cheating? Going to a restaurant is cheating? Let's see here. I've got the list here.
You
We
already
did-
had me calling out really good items beforehand. You're just
the squash did get solid reviews. We had the Korean wings, which
okay. I haven't had those.
I did not have that night, but had the next night. They were very good, much better than the fried chicken.
Yeah, the fried chicken was not a winner.
The fries were very solid. Lumpia dumplings were good.
These are all new foods to me.
Yeah, the sticky ribs I didn't think that were that outstanding.
Sticky ribs?
Yeah,
What does that mean?
I don't. The sauce is sticky. I don't know.
All right, that sounds great.
Kimchi fried rice was quite good. Pork
Oh,
belly hot pot I didn't love, and then we did the 34-ounce cowboy chop because we had a group of 7 of us eating
What was that? That's the steak that they slice.
T-bone steak.
All right,
It was outstanding. We ran that one back again the next night.
really.
The
How
next
does
night,
that run? Damn,
that's 160.
160 for it.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
just
but
when
you know
only
those
7
NBA writers, right, Lopez fans?
The next
As
night,
long as they're not part of the New York Times sports room.
we tried. It was unfortunate news. We tried the kimchi carbonara. Huge standout,
Really?
massive winner.
Kimchi carbonara?
We had to run back a second plate of that.
Really?
Yeah,
This is actually good news for me. I don't know. I'm complaining because when I go with you again, you're going to know what's up.
exactly. And there's still stuff on the menu I have not had.
We're going to be
at
able to
Best
curate
Friend.
like a pretty excellent meal.
I am quite confident of it, and there will be 0 corn consumed at any point.
Oh.
There was not at any point during this
Fucking corn.
during this trip.
Did you have any slushies? Did we have
I
slushies?
did have a slushie.
We didn't
I
have
had
any
them-
slushies.
we did not.
Slushies, right?
I had a margarita slushie. Way too sweet. It was not good.
Really?
Very disappointing.
Wow.
Stuck to Modelo the next night. and
That's kind of like
came
when you're
away
at the
happy.
pool. Like, it's really sweet when you get the slushies at the pool, but you're like, it's 100 degrees. I don't care. I'm drunk and it's 11 a.m. and it's 100 degrees out. It was really hot there, right?
But, yeah, I mean, it wasn't by July in Vegas standards necessarily that hot, but
Really?
yes. Friend of the pod, Dan Feldman, every
Oh.
day
Name dropping again.
made the walk over from he was like you staying at the Cosmopolitan, from there to the arena every day.
He walked from the Cosmo
in
to the
middle
arena.
of the afternoon.
Was he pouring sweat when he got there?
He wasn't.
Huh.
He was red.
I guess I'm impressed with Dan Feldman.
Yeah.
Also, staying at the Cosmo, pretty nice.
So, yeah, I mean, there's still stuff on the menu that I'm curious about that I have not tried. Neither night did we have the birria ramen, which I'm sure is
That seems like that's
outstanding.
kind of hard to share.
That's also my sense, but it's the place that is designed for sharing stuff. So I don't know. Maybe they figure it out.
Eggplant schnitzel.
Yeah. The uni dynamite rice was like solid, not outstanding. So, yeah, I mean, there's still some things. So I'm gonna have to go back.
I mean, I'm down for it. Again, it was one of my favorite meals. So I think if we could curate it even more, that'd be even better.
I agree.
All right.
I
Vegas food?
did miss our waiter a little bit.
It was a different waiter.
Two different waiters.
Well, yeah, it'd be kind of strange if it was the same day.
No, I mean, I think I
Same
saw that dude brought me my margarita slushie. He just happened to be working a different area of the room. Also want to shout out, by the way, while we're here, the fry sauce burger is the burger of the week this week at Low Woody's.
Hello.
In honor of National Friday on Thursday, which feels like they should have National Friday always on Friday, shouldn't they?
I agree. We also should probably shout out the home team location opening. I thought about going to the opening,
As did I.
to the grand opening party, and I think I had children's baseball to do or something like that. I actually did have children's baseball to do, so I wasn't able to go. But I had a friend who went and said it was great.
Nice. All right, it's time for the return of our NBA Seattle update
Oh, I thought it was time for your
Sponsored.
favorite segment.
by Pagliacci Pizza. Because we got our strongest statement yet by NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, who was asked about expansion at the Associated Press Sports Editors Conference in Las Vegas, simultaneous with Summer League, and said, "We will turn to expansion once these new media deals," those are the TV deals, obviously, are done. Although I guess now they're maybe streaming, so maybe they are media deals and not TV. It's not a sure thing, but as I've said before, I think it's natural that organizations grow over time. We will look at this market, referring to Las Vegas. There's no doubt there's enormous interest in Seattle. That's not a secret. There are other markets that have indicated interest. For the people who hear or read about this interview, we are not engaged in that process now. We're not taking meetings right now with any potential groups, so please don't call us. What we're saying to everyone privately is the same thing I'm saying publicly, that there will be a very open process at the time already to consider expansion, but that's not yet. that's not yet now.
Okay. Are you taking this at face value?
I am. I mean, it matches everything I previously thought. But again, it's just nice to see. It's like you thought when I became more positive about expansion.
So it's positive, but what I mean by face value is not face value.
Oh, that it's not done.
Yes. Are you taking this at face value? Because we know that it's happening. Like, we're not stupid. We understand these conversations are going on. The only piece that I'm asking you about, do you take as face value is, we're not taking meetings right now with any potential groups. And I will answer the question to you of why they're not, if you want to ask me why. And that is because they already have the groups. There's no taking
No, I
meetings.
do not think they already have the groups.
I think the groups are LeBron James.
I do not think they already have the groups.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
I think those groups are interested.
But they know those groups are interested.
Yeah.
There's no way that there haven't been back channel conversations with those groups.
I mean, I have no inside info here.
What
think
does
they
it
would
mean by the media deals? They're going to finish them and then have this? Or is there a place for those teams in those media deals?
TBD.
Okay. Because it wouldn't make sense for them to negotiate media deals, get them done, and then be like, well, now there's two teams.
You know how the Big Ten had the clauses if they expanded, right?
If the Big Ten expands.
Well, they're not expanding at the moment. Since Kevin Warren is no longer the commissioner, no one is making statements about expansion is inevitable or growth is inevitable or whatever.
The Big Ten's expanding.
At some point.
The Big Ten is expanding soon. The Pac-12 is dead.
Okay.
The Pac-12 is as good as dead.
We may get some news on that before too long.
Within the next decade, the Pac-12 will not be a conference.
Yeah, but I'm not concerned about the next decade. I'm concerned about the next 2 years.
Well, it's going to be a conference for the next 2 years.
Okay, I'm concerned about the next 5 years.
I, for one, think that's positive news.
The Pac-12 part of it or the NBA expansion?
No, the NBA expansion part.
Okay.
We'll talk about the Pac-12 later.
Sure.
But
Will we?
not today.
I see.
The NBA expansion
For the low
part
post
of it.
fans, you'll have to come back on a later episode.
The NBA expansion part of it, I think, is, again, I've told you over and over and over again that I think this is done. Look, maybe it's not as done. Given these quotes, I'm willing to take them. If you're telling me I should take them
I
at
don't
face
think
value,
the NBA wants to discourage other markets, especially given the possibility that teams do eventually
that
relocate.
they want to pillage the cities for better deals.
Given the possibility the teams eventually relocate, one of the dumbest arguments out there was, well, the NBA can't expand to Seattle because then how will they, convince teams to pony up for new arenas? There's always a Shelby.
Yeah, there'll never be a football team in Los Angeles. I have a long complaining perspective about this and how teams relate to cities that I was thinking about this weekend as it pertained to the Seattle Mariners and some comments. But I'm going to let that go for later.
Oh.
Not for later today. I felt like I was like ESPN's Kevin Pelton. ESPN senior writer Kevin Pelton. That's your new name. Is not going to let me talk about this.
Had that title for a few years now.
It's new to the Peltoncast.
Okay. And to the Love Post.
I was like, ESPN senior writer Kevin Pelton doesn't want me to talk about cities, how they relate to professional sports franchises, and how they relate to services that are provided in cities.
The unhoused population.
Yes. But I think that there are relationships between those two things that people are not considering.
In terms of funding of campaigns?
I mean, not funding of campaigns necessarily, but looking for taxpayer dollar, looking for tax breaks, but then also expecting things in cities that are basically a concern of the state. And if there's no money available for the state, housing people is a state concern, right?
I don't know. I understand how you're using the word concern, but I feel like it's
a responsibility of the state to house the people who live in it.
Sure.
Not the state as in Washington State, the state as in like the institution of government.
Yes.
That is the responsibility of the state, is to house the people that live within it, right?
And if funds are instead spent
on professional
stadiums,
sports teams and maintaining professional sports teams and stadiums and giving tax breaks, but then not having enough money to house the people within your state and then complaining about those people because it bothers your wealthy fans who don't even live in your fucking city, who are coming in from Bellevue,
I'm sure.
who are coming in from the South End, who are coming in from Everett, and having those people be terrified of the people who live in your city, but you still want to be there. You still want the tax breaks, but you don't want them to have any budget to be able to take care of the problems that are happening within the state. That is a fucked up relationship.
I'm sure that many of the murders
Anyway,
comes from with fans come within.
ESPN senior writer Kevin Pelton doesn't want me to talk about this.
I would be careful with this argument because I do think it runs too much into like the citizens for better things argument that, you know,
If we're being honest.
you agree with the citizens for more important things.
If we're being honest here, the citizens for more important things. Look, I don't know if those motherfuckers were asking for the right more important things because there are groups that are not able to lobby for themselves. And
I agree with
lobbyists are the problem here.
I think
right?
I mean,
Not the problem, but like
they're a symptom of the
corporate interests are the problem in this case. And there are people who are not spending money, and there are people who are not able to lobby for themselves, right? But there are people also who do spend money and who can complain about things that do have swaying power. And those people get very upset when they see an unhoused person.
I think you're making this argument in a very confusing way. Now, my issue with that argument is I don't think that the debate is necessarily housing services or funding stadiums. We have more than enough wealth in our society to do both of those things.
I agree.
And we have chosen not to do that.
We could be taxing billionaires, of which there are many in the city of Seattle.
But again, this is all based on some reporting by Erica C. Barnett on Publicola about the Mariners requesting an encampment to be removed near T-Mobile Park in relation to... It says opening day last year. I have not yet read the story. I don't know whether it was 2022 or 2023. This was April 2022.
I hate everything about the Mariners except for the players. And
Scott Service?
Scott Service is fine. That he's at the level of fine. But every other thing about the Mariners, I hate.
I'm sure many individuals in the Mariners are not responsible for this request. All right, on that note, it's time for what will undoubtedly
positive about the Mariners.
Be the favorite segment of the Low Post listener.
Don't burn yourself. We got Mariners hot takes coming at ya.
I just want to let you know a little something for this here hot take. It feels really strange going into this hot take. Remember last week when I said this team was the anti-2000 Mariners?
2001.
Anti-2001 Mariners?
I mean, they could be the anti-2000 Mariners. They have not bunted to win a single playoff series yet.
That happened?
I think that's how they scored the winning run against the White Sox.
God, I hate all the old Mariners. Well, Ichiro wasn't even on the team, and they managed to bunt to win a series. Well, I just want to let you know, I was right! Because this last week and weekend, the Soto Mojo, the fun differential,
Wow.
the refuse to lose, the chaos ball, well, baby, it's back. A switch flipped the night the Mariners blew that 4-run lead to the Rays, and they are on now in a series against the Astros, who previously, look, if there is anybody who's more hateable, I just can't even imagine the corporate infrastructure of the fucking Houston Astros. The Mariners probably seem lovable. This is not even part of the take. The Mariners probably seem lovable compared to the Houston Astros ownership group. Anyway, who previously were unbeatable for the Mariners. They probably should have gotten the 4-game sweep. They looked unstoppable, coming back from deficits, pitching, making key hits, and as I watched Julio's home run derby end with a whimper, George Kirby give up the first run of the game for the AL in the All-Star game, I realized this isn't just the anti-2001 Mariners. They're the anti-2022 Mariners. Not a lot of luck. No big celebration around the All-Star game, even though it's in Seattle. Remember how excited we were about the Mariners last All-Star game?
I do.
We're not right now, aside from this last week. This is going to be about wins.
Remember we did a Mariners emergency pod?
On the we've done a couple, right?
Yes.
This is going to be about wins, and I'm here to predict it. No, foresee it right now. The Mariners will have the best record in the American League in the second half of the season, and this is how they're different than last year's team. They will win the AL West. No wild card around here.
Wow.
Let the Rangers have their 5 All-Stars on the field in July. Because the Mariners will have 9 players on the field in October. I think they play games in the schedule. And where did you hear it first? The most trusted name in takes right here on the Peltoncast. And that's why you're getting a bonus take.
Oh, wow. A bonus take.
I love seeing Seattle fans with the "Come Here Shohei" chant. That was so fun. And
It was Come to Seattle.
"Come to Seattle, Shohei."
Yeah.
And it is the last we will hear of the Mariners in the Shohei Derby. Because I'm so sorry to say this. It reminded me, this is such a perfect callback here. It reminded me of a night a little over 15 years ago when fans chanted, "Save our Sonics."
Ooh.
So fucking inspiring, right? I wasn't there, but I heard a whole podcast about it. And what happened after that? The billionaires in the league, they were probably 100 millionaires at the time. Look, times have changed, of course. The billionaires in the league moved the team to Oklahoma City. It's very cute that fans think they matter. But this is a foregone conclusion because who matters in major professional sports are the owners and their willingness to spend and compete. And the second this team was sold to John Stanton, the chances of Shohei signing in Seattle went down to 0. I can guarantee you that agents, Shohei Ohtani himself, saw the Mariners last offseason. They saw the tenure of Robinson Cano. And he is done playing for a team that is not going to the playoffs because they're unwilling to spend. You better believe a lot in take number 1 if you think Shohei is coming here, because that is the kind of season it would take to lure him. And I'm so sorry to say this again. I know the Mariners, much like many other teams, have already considered a dollar amount, right? They're there. They're crunching the numbers. They've considered an amount they're willing to spend for Shohei already. And I would love to know what that amount is, because on their hypothetical books, because I can guarantee you it is millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars short of what he's actually going to sign for. I love imagining the Mariners quietly crumpling up the piece of paper under the table that they expected to slide over. The dollar amount that they imagined in their heads for months, and they were like, wow, we're going to offer this. Crumbling, falling apart like Kendall Roy at the boardroom. I want to see it. Shohei is going to be the first billion-dollar player. We'll see. And at least $750 million. And it is not going to be in Seattle. But hey, maybe they will eventually save our Sonics.
Wow. That was an emotional swing. That may as well have been an episode of The Bear season 2 in terms of the number of emotions I felt.
I didn't even know we were doing the Sonics thing. I love that it tied into it.
My favorite part is imagining someone who didn't understand that Shohei Ohtani was a free agent at season's end and being thinking that it was some sort of travel or visitors bureau pitch. Shohei already comes to Seattle multiple times every year on the schedule. He doesn't need to plan a trip in December.
But I was even guilty of it myself, being like, what a beautiful weekend here. It's so sunny. I was like, Shohei's been to Seattle.
Yeah,
He's been to Seattle in April, and he's been to Seattle in October. Shohei has been to Seattle.
I mean, Seattle in April actually might be nice for Shohei Ohtani, the pitcher. Not as good for Shohei Ohtani, the hitter.
I do not personally believe in the dollar amount that the Mariners are willing to spend. And players don't necessarily always sign for the most money, but San Francisco, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Yankees, the Phillies. There are teams who are out, the Cubs. There are so many teams out there who I can confidently say will be able to get to a higher dollar amount for Shohei. It would have to be for the love of the city in Seattle.
So here's what I would tell you is you mentioned the Mariners last offseason. And I think the thing to remember about the Mariners last offseason is that everyone in Seattle remembers the Mariners last offseason. And you know what tends to make teams desperate to spend a lot of money to sign a free agent? When they need to maintain the fan base.
You're not thinking this is a different type of money. This is the most expensive player in baseball history.
Okay, but Adrian Beltre and Richie Sexson relative to the salaries in 2003.
We are talking about you are committing basically your salary cap for the next For the Mariners, the amount of money that they're confidently willing to spend for the next 12 years, 10 years, 14 years, something like that, like legitimately Shohei would, I think he would need the biggest contract in baseball history plus a lot. And I'm not convinced that John Stanton is willing to spend. It is a risk that I don't think John Stanton is willing to take. And I think he's going to look at it and say, we might get 4 years of Shohei at market value, and we might have 10 years of Shohei at not market value.
But that's way too logical. Again, you're thinking of it from a logical standpoint. You
John
need to think
Stanton
about it
doesn't have the money, and he's not willing to spend the money.
I think John Stanton does have the money. Whether he's willing to spend the money is a different question.
He has not shown that he's willing to spend the money at any point. There's nothing that has happened in the history of the Seattle Mariners that has shown that he's willing to. But also, if you're Shohei, you have to know in your head, if I sign with the Giants, I'm probably not going to be the only player. If I sign with the Dodgers...
But he knows he's not going to be the only player because Julio is here.
But Shohei Ohtani has been on a team with another pretty good hitter.
The Mariners are already better than the Angels, so that's the problem with this argument. The Mariners are already better than the Angels, and they don't have Shohei Ohtani. The Angels have Shohei Ohtani.
I understand that. He's looking at getting to a team like the Angels don't spend more than anybody else. Their teams, again, like I don't think he's signing in San Diego, but I would, if I had to wager, I feel like San Francisco is a pretty exciting one.
I mean, supposedly that was the other team that was the closest to signing him when he came from.
I think
MVP.
he's I think the Mariners have an advantage by being on the West Coast. They are going to need to look at a dollar amount that is so much more than the Mariners have ever spent. That is basically, what was the Cano deal? $300 million, something like that?
330, I want to say.
They're going to have to look at a deal that is probably more than double the most they have ever spent on a player.
For sure. But it's still going to be a large amount more than any of these teams have spent on a player if it's the largest contract in baseball history.
But the Giants had an offer on the table. Aaron Judge was ready to sign there. And I don't believe that if the Giants had signed Aaron Judge, that they would be out of the Shohei sweepstakes.
I suppose.
There's also just more money.
No, it was $240 million.
It's pathetic.
But back then, contracts only lasted 10 years.
So anyway, it was fun.
What you're actually saying, though, to go back to your original take, is that the Mariners...
Best record in the league, baby. Let's fucking go.
That they're the anti-2002 Mariners. Because I've often said, the movie Moneyball is actually, or in the book, is actually the story of how the Seattle Mariners blew the lead in the AL West in 2002. There's a line, having recently reread the book, where Michael Lewis points out that the standings in the AL West, the top three, entirely flipped from midseason to the end of the season. The A's were in third place, the Mariners were in first place, and they reversed. That was the first year the Mariners missed the playoffs. And
oh no, they'd missed the playoffs actually a lot of years before then.
Thanks.
Probably 30.
Thanks.
That was actually not the first year they missed the playoffs. Oh no, they'd had a playoff drought for many years before then.
Thanks. I'm speaking about the...
They actually didn't go to the playoffs until 1995.
Okay. Yeah. But back then, only two teams made the playoffs. I mean, during the era where multiple teams played.
Well, now the Mariners would have made the playoffs then, too. Probably would have beaten the A's.
They probably would have.
I love the alternate history of Moneyball, where the Mariners, they're just like, yeah, sure, we'll win the third wild card and crush you in the playoffs. Write a book about it.
No one was writing a book about those Mariners, thank God. The Mariners are 6 games back of the Texas Rangers at present, 4 games back of the Astros.
6 games back of the Rangers, when the Rangers have had an unprecedentedly great first half, is kind of a great place to be.
It could be a lot worse. As much as the Mariners have underperformed their run differential, which is now 5th best in the AL, the Rangers have frankly significantly underperformed their run differential, which is basically identical to the Rays, who are 5 games ahead of them in the standings. And identical also to the Braves, basically, who are 9 games ahead of them in the standings.
Baseball is such a funny sport because when you look at it at any given time, you're like, I can't imagine any team losing. And then that team that you can't imagine losing goes on a 12-game losing streak. And you see the Angels, who are ahead of the Mariners and are now behind the Mariners, who are in a steep slide. And the conversation, I don't think they're going to trade Shohei. I would be shocked if they traded Shohei. But it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And if you are the Angels, you say we're giving up on the season. We know you'd have to be so confident that he wasn't re-signing there, and you'd have to be like, we just need to remake our farm system or whatever based upon the Shohei deal.
I mean,
logically, they should fucking Dame Lillard it up and trade him. But like one half of a season of ticket sales ain't worth everything you're gonna get for trading Shohei. If I was advising them, I would do it. Right? Tank Storm, do it. But the reality is, I don't think they're going to. But the Angels have still slid behind the Mariners, and that losing streak hasn't come for the Rangers yet, and it's going to.
Well, they have lost 2 in a row going into the break. All right, Mariners Fangraph playoffs odds at 23% at the moment.
Not bad.
Oh, we'll take it. I like those odds. Let's get into the roundup, starting with the Kraken, who agreed to 2-year deals with restricted free agent defenseman Will Borgen and Cale Fleury. Vince Dunn and Cole Lynn remain restricted free agents for the Kraken. They also added veteran winger Pierre-Edouard Bellemare on a 1-year deal. Bellemare spent the past 2 seasons with Tampa Bay, reaching the 2022 Stanley Cup Finals, having previously appeared in them with the Vegas Golden Knights in 2018. He also is reuniting with Kraken coach Dave Hackstall. He played for him in Philadelphia before that. At this stage of his career, age 38, Bellemare probably providing depth and leadership more than anything else. ESPN graded the Kraken's offseason so far an A- in a piece co-written by third Pelton brother Ryan S. Clark.
All right.
We'll take it. Seattle Sounders got a wild Derby win Saturday night.
Excuse me, that was Darby.
Sometimes I read words in the rundown. And
In
I'm
the
just
right
like,
way?
Yeah. And then I have to remember it does not transmit to the
Queen's English.
Saturday night in Vancouver, the only goal in the first half went to the Whitecaps, and the Sounders will still down 1-0 in the 60th minute before Leo Chu got his first goal to equalize off a corner. Vancouver surged back ahead in the 72nd minute, and I recall seeing that come through on Twitter and being like, well, that was fun while it lasted. But the Sounders answered again 4 minutes later through a second Leo Chu goal, again assisted by Jackson Reagan, this time getting on the end of a great header by Reagan from a free kick. The teams went into stoppage time tied. The Whitecaps were reduced to 10 men for a second yellow card, and I believe this was on the subsequent restart. The Sounders took advantage in stoppage time with Yaimar Gomez Andrade slotting home the winner with his left foot. When I saw that he had scored a goal to win this, I would have given you 1,000-to-1 odds that it was anything but a header. But lo and behold, it was Yaimar with his left foot from inside the box. A pretty clinical finish for someone with 5 MLS goals in 4 seasons. It was a deserved win, with the Sounders dominating possession and creating 2.7 expected goals to 1.1 for Vancouver. They then lost 2-0 Wednesday night in San Jose before we recorded this, going behind in the 19th minute on a penalty, then conceded a second in the 65th minute, never found the net on 9 shots, just 2 on goal. Stephen Cleveland started both of those matches in goal due to a concussion suffered by Stephen Fry in practice. We'll see if Fry is able to return at the weekend. The results put the Sounders in 3rd place in the West standings, with LAFC now having almost completely made up their games in hand, just have 1 remaining more than the Sounders. Sounders 1 point ahead of Real Salt Lake in an identical number of matches. On Saturday, they'll host FC Dallas, which comes in tied for 6th in the West with 29 points from 22 matches. And a fact that may interest only me, all 3 Texas teams in MLS have either 28 or 29 points. OL Reign were scoreless in their final game before the World Cup break, getting outshot 16-5 at Orlando. That loss dropped the Reign into a tie for 4th in the NWSL standings. League play won't resume until August, although the Reign will play a pair of Challenge Cup games before then, starting on July 28th. New Olympic Lyon CEO Santiago Cucci told RMC Sport that the sale of the Reign following the takeover of OL Feminine by Washington Spirit owner Michelle King will happen, quote, quickly due to financial issues for OL. Said that they have more than one potential buyer and the price will be above the $53 million cost of the latest NWSL expansion team in the Bay Area. So stay tuned on that one. Seattle Storm, in news that is exciting to Tristan,
Hello.
are heading into the All-Star break on a season 4 7-game losing streak.
What was the joke that I made about somebody had more losses, or more, like somebody had more All-Star games than the team had wins?
Oh,
more
yeah.
30-point games than the team had wins?
Well, yes, it was All-Stars than the team had wins.
More All-Stars than the team had wins?
Yeah.
Still true.
Still not true. Only 2 All-Stars, 4 wins. That included a 0-4 road trip to wrap things up against 4 of the WNBA's top teams. Had a narrow loss Saturday at New York on national TV, but lost by 20 in Connecticut in the first game of the road trip, and required fourth quarter comebacks to make back-to-back losses Tuesday in Washington and Wednesday in Atlanta, respectable. Jewel Lloyd, fresh off 39 points, a WNBA record, 9 3-pointers, sat out the latter game due to the ankle sprain that knocked her out of Saturday's game against the Liberty, when she suffered it in the second half. In happier news, Gabby Williams made her debut Tuesday in Washington, saw extended action Wednesday, scoring 10 points in 24 minutes. And rookie Jordan Horston started in Lloyd's place against Atlanta and scored a career-high 23 points as part of a double-double with 10 rebounds, also added 3 steals. At 4-16, the Storm are now percentage points behind the Phoenix Mercury for the league's worst record this season.
How are the Mercury this bad? Are they trying?
Yeah, they're trying.
It's still Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi, right?
Yeah, it's not that Diana Taurasi anymore. Pretty Grider's awesome.
Not that Diana Taurasi. Maybe she should have retired with Sue.
Not those Giants.
Diana Taurasi's looking old though.
Yes.
They would have had such a good victory lap together. Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird retiring in the same year.
Yeah.
People need me to write the script for the WNBA a little bit more.
We just need more white men running things in the WNBA.
It would have been beautiful for the transactions.
in the text-based WNBA sim.
Look, I mean, nobody watches these games either. All we're doing is we watch Caitlin Clark. That's who we watch.
You're damn right we do. Would still have the best 2-year combined record of the teams currently in the lottery, with the other two besides the Storm and the Mercury, those being the Indiana Fever, whose 12 losses by 10 points or fewer have already tied the WNBA single-season record at the All-Star break. The Fever having the perfect rebuilding season where they are extremely competitive, look exciting for the future, but keep losing all these close games, including earlier today in overtime against the Liberty after Aaliyah Boston hit the game-tying 3 at the buzzer.
They're going to win some games, though.
Eventually, you would think they should.
Look, I don't know much about the plain states, I guess we're talking. Iowa and Indiana are basically the same state, though, if we're being honest. Are we being honest here?
Not agree with that assessment.
Things are dangerously setting up for Caitlin Clark to end up in Indiana. That is what we should be concerned with. They're the number one concern, are they?
They're the most likely team to get the number 1 pick.
How many?
I would say.
How many percentage points if you're the worst team over a 2-year period?
I believe it's 44% chance at number 1.
And then what is number 2?
Still haven't looked that up.
It's quite high though.
It's like 30.
I mean, I'll take those odds. The Storm,
well, but they can't get up to number 2, is what I'm telling you.
Does the WNBA cheat at all in these situations?
I don't think they're fixing the lottery. No.
Okay.
What I will point out to you as a reminder, is that Caitlin Clark has the option of returning for her 5th season, depending on which team holds the number 1 overall pick.
So you're telling me Caitlin Clark doesn't want to go to Indiana?
She has the option of returning to
If Caitlin
Iowa
Clark doesn't want to go to Indiana ends up with the lottery happens before she has to make that decision?
Well before, yes. It
Okay.
happens early in the college season.
So if Caitlin Clark is like, I want to follow in the footsteps of Lauren Jackson, Breanna Stewart, Sue Bird.
Sue Bird in particular.
I want to be in Seattle.
Yes.
I can take another year.
Yes.
Go play college basketball. Be a goddamn superstar in fucking Iowa.
Yeah.
Right? Basically the most important athlete in the state of Iowa.
The number 2 team has 28% chance at the number 1 pick. It's 18% for the number 3 team, and again 10% for the number 4 team.
Wow, they really skew those odds. I get it that it's 2 years, but damn. So okay, what are things looking like right now?
So the big question mark, like Indiana, if they make the playoffs, that's great news for the Storm.
Are they anywhere in conversation?
They have slipped a little bit because, again, they keep losing so many close games. But the other team we are watching with particular interest, as we have talked about all year, Indiana is now 5-15. They've lost 8 in a row. Is the Chicago Sky.
Okay.
Because the Chicago Sky were better than the Storm last season.
Yeah.
And
They're better than the Storm last season?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're the number 2 seed, I think.
Okay.
So if they miss the playoffs, that's great news for the Storm.
Okay.
They are currently 1 game up on the LA Sparks for the last playoff spot at 8-12. Sparks are 7-13. Their head coach, James Wade, left last week to take an assistant coach job with the Toronto Raptors.
Really?
Assistant coach Emre Vatan Sevar was promoted to take his place, former Storm assistant coach.
Okay.
So now they have a rookie head coach.
So we want them to miss the playoffs.
Yes.
Chicago.
Yes.
Okay. What does that change? Where does that put the Storm?
That would put them third instead of fourth in this scenario. I mean,
Okay.
but
Is
it's
there
also
almost no way of them getting to first or second?
I mean, Indiana would have to make the playoffs for that to happen.
And that's pretty unlikely at this point.
LA had 9 fewer wins than them last season. So they'd have to go 9 wins worse than LA if LA misses the playoffs to be ahead of them.
So the other thing that I think we need to watch is where the teams are.
Correct.
Because not where the teams are record-wise, location-wise.
So Chicago does not have their pick next year is the other thing about this.
Who has their pick?
Dallas.
Caitlin Clark doesn't want to play in Dallas.
I think it's not just the city themselves. It's also
What is... I could not name a player who's ever played for the Dallas
Wings.
Wings.
You can, actually. You've been to a Dallas Wings game, as a matter of fact. And I know you remember who played in that game.
Who?
Liz Cambage,
Liz Cambage.
who set the WNBA record for points in a game with 53 playing for the Wings. Skylar Diggins-Smith was also there. You will notice a commonality between those two players. They both requested trades.
Oh, so it's a pretty questionable franchise.
I would say that would not be at the top of my list if I were a WNBA player.
Indiana is a
interviewing.
maybe. Chicago's probably a yes.
Chicago doesn't have their pick.
Okay, so Chicago's not even a chance.
0 chance.
LA, though, is a dangerous one.
Yes. Phoenix could also be dangerous.
Phoenix, LA, those are the cities that we're scared of.
Correct.
Indiana is in, like, the lottery might happen. Indiana gets the number 1 pick. We might be like, okay, you're telling me there's a chance.
She also would you also would get the opportunity with Indiana to play with Aaliyah Boston, who is an all-star starter as a rookie. So that's exciting.
But this is a very good rookie class.
Outstanding.
So if the
Did you see
Storm...
the photo of Cameron Brink with Kevin Hart, by the way?
No.
She's much taller than him, as it turns out.
Let's say that this draft class happens. The Storm end up with the 3rd pick. Caitlin Clark stays in college.
Mm-hmm.
Are they too good all of a sudden? Or are they still bad enough to be in the mix for the number 1 pick the next year?
Life finds a way.
Okay.
They drafted Jewel Lloyd one year and still were in position to draft Brianna Stewart the next.
Okay.
Granted that Jewel Lloyd took some time to develop into the
Do you
player
think
that
the
she would
team
become.
is the team angling for this at this point? I mean, they're 4-16. Like,
I think the team is frustrated with the number of losses.
there's no reason to win, though. They're probably still like 2 games out of the playoffs. Something stupid.
No, they are now 4 games out of the playoffs.
It's like the Mariners could be 4 games out of the playoffs, and we're like, it's right there.
Well, there's 162 instead of 40.
Okay. Is Caitlin Clark worth? I mean, she's going to be so developed. By the
Throwing
time.
away 2 seasons for her if
Yes.
she's in the draft in 2021. Yes.
Caitlin Clark is worth throwing like 5 seasons for.
I don't know about 5. 5 is a lot. But also, again, it's not like you're getting nobody in this year's draft. You're still probably getting
You could
a
be
very good
building up
player.
all the role players or whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody. And then the second Caitlin Clark hits, it's on. They're one of the best teams in the league.
I mean, I don't know about the second that she hits. But, I mean, again, they have a recipe for this. They had Subert on the roster. They drafted Jewel Lloyd in 2015. And then they got Stewie in 2016. And they had developed Alicia Clark into a starter. And suddenly, that's 4/5 of a team that won 2 championships in 3 years.
And we feel
No,
like
not
Caitlin Clark
immediately.
probably would want to be in Seattle.
I am confident when I tell you that Caitlin Clark would like to play in Seattle.
Wow. That's like you're giving a knowing look right now. You're giving a Caitlin Clark wants to be in Seattle look.
We're deep enough into the podcast that the low post listeners have tuned out.
You've heard things? Wow. This is an ESPN senior analyst, Kevin Pelton, has heard things.
Writer, not analyst.
Or sorry, senior writer. ESPN senior writer, Kevin Pelton, has heard things. Caitlin Clark wants to be in Seattle, doesn't she? Oh,
I didn't
my.
say that she.
She wouldn't mind being in Seattle.
Yeah, that's a
And
good
she
one.
doesn't want to go to Indiana?
I have not heard anything about that. To be clear,
I've never even heard of the state. I've always wondered. I could name almost 49 states. That's the one I couldn't name.
which state do you think you're least likely to be able to name?
Vermont. I don't know. But probably like if you showed me a map and we're like, where's West Virginia? I'd be like, Dog, that's too hard.
We used to go play at the playground near your old house with the map.
I remember that. That's fun. Brandon Royce, old school.
No, by the house that you lived at with your children more recently. Your most recent house.
They have a map on there?
Yeah. Baby Fantasy Genius and I would talk about
You mean right here?
No, over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
At right next to the Doug Baldwin.
Exactly.
Yeah, Cascade Elementary.
So that's going to be a real tough discussion for the Lovehouse listener.
Don't ask me where New Hampshire is.
Oh, wow. The Granite State.
Right, you couldn't find that. You think you can name every single state just
based on location? Let's do that Sporkle quiz another time.
I think Luca could.
Oh, for sure he could.
He's pretty fucking good at geography. I'm not so convinced. He's also pretty fucking good at the real immaculate grid.
Used to be much better. All right, let's talk about UW men's
Derek
basketball.
Lee played for the Cubs and the Marlins.
Yeah,
I got that one.
Nice. The Huskies have added yet another veteran transfer. Rutgers guard Paul Mulcahy, who played 4 years for the Scarlet Knights, starting 81 of his 90 games the last 3 seasons. Mulcahy is a pass-first player who topped out at 9.0 points per game as a junior, but averaged 5.3 assists that season, 4.9 last season's. Hit 37% of his threes last year, is at 36% career, and has good size for a lead ball handler at 6'6". So I think he could potentially play with Husky incumbent point guards or current point guards Severe Wheeler and Corin Johnson. But all of a sudden, in a very strange concern for the University of Washington men's basketball team, they got too many guys. They got a lot of guys. Mulcahy was a full-time starter in a Power 5 team last year. Severe Wheeler was, a starter most of the last 2 seasons at Kentucky. They have Nate Kilmese, who is the the leading scorer among freshmen.
Do you think this team is going to sneak up on teams?
I don't know if they are.
Like Pac-12 like preseason rankings. So they're going to be high, or are they going to be like 8, and then all of a sudden?
I mean, the Pac-12 actually looks pretty tough this year. Like some exciting prospects in the league. So I would guess that they're like 5th or 6th probably in the Pac-12 preseason rankings without having looked at it closely. I mean, they got shooting in Anthony Holland and Moses Wood. I'd say if I have a concern now, it's like, will Wesley Yates get enough chance to play? Is like an actual freshman coming to UW? Like Yates and Corin Johnson, you worry about them getting buried a little bit and transferring, but also everyone transfers and they'll just come up with some more transfers to replace them. It's what college basketball is now.
You just take it year by year.
So,
well,
yeah.
I never thought the team we'd be most confident in next year, basketball-wise, would be the Husky men's basketball. Or like if you had to take all the sports in the city of Seattle, chances of making the playoffs or NCAA tournament or whatever, I feel like they're like pretty high all of a sudden.
Yeah.
They're higher than the Sounders.
I don't even know like which team I'm more excited about just next season, UW men's basketball or UW women's basketball. And like UW women finished last season on such a high. You never would have imagined that being a possibility.
I mean, I also look at this and I'm like, I've heard of Braxton and me and Franck Kepnong, and then there's just a lot of guys we're going to have to learn.
Well, for sure. I mean, that's college basketball now. Like, I know these guys. I watch Severe Wheeler a ton, obviously. Definitely remember Mulcahy. As I've said, Wilhelm Breidenbach, could not possibly forget him if I tried. So,
Dude,
I know some of these
Breidenbach,
guys.
that's word fucking hype. But we're going to get to like, it's that late November time and you're at a Husky football game and you're like, yeah, did you know that Husky basketball were playing today? And you're like, oh crap, they're playing too? It's going to be that moment and all of a sudden we're going to be like, damn, this team's 12-0.
No, they will not be 12-0. They will definitely lose to some non-conference opponent. They're also playing some tough non-conference games.
I'll tell you, it might be good.
I don't know if you're aware of this. They play Gonzaga.
Who?
All right, let's wrap up with the Seahawks, where today's Seahawks Twitter story du jour, I guess that's repetitive to say it's today's story du jour. No Seahawks defender ranked among the top 10 at their position in ESPN's rankings by my colleague Jeremy Fowler based on talking to coaches and scouts in the league. Bobby Wagner, Quandre Diggs, and Tariq Woolen, who apparently surpassed his ceiling as a rookie, were honorable mentions.
I don't care at all. This is the stupidest time of year. We're so close to it mattering. It's July. We're in the dregs of football.
We're not even that close to it mattering.
We're not close to it mattering. We're close to talking about football.
Right.
We're like 3 weeks away from talking about football. Maybe 2 weeks even. Capital Block Party is like you're like, oh damn, football's starting soon, and that's next weekend. So the one thing that I will note is, first off, I don't give a shit at all about the ESPN top 10 rankings. Number two is that,
again, they're very useful to understand how people within the league view things. They're not necessarily that useful as an actual projection of what's going to happen.
and the wild thing about it is that how people within the league view things doesn't matter at all.
I mean, it does matter. It matters for things like contracts and trades and things of that nature.
Sure.
It doesn't matter in terms of winning and losing games necessarily.
And being a good defense. The one thing that I was thinking about earlier, as I was naming players with Mateo that we were drafting, was like, I kind of forgot that Bobby Wagner was on this team.
You forgot?
Well, it's like an added bonus. It is a cherry on top.
You forgot about Bobby?
Having Bobby Wagner back. So that to me is also, I can't imagine, maybe it was just linebackers in general. I don't know if they're doing it positionally at linebacker.
Let me double check. I would assume it's
Like,
off-ball linebackers.
Off-ball linebackers, and he found 9 players that are better than Bobby Wagner. I'm a little skeptical.
Again, he didn't find them. People within the league found
This is
them.
always, sure, great.
Jeremy Feller is not like choosing the players. He's talking to people and synthesizing their thoughts, which is important work.
But part of that is kind of like the excitement of players when you're synthesizing their thoughts. It's not about like actually ranking the best or the worst players. People are going to talk more about somebody who's new than they are about Bobby Wagner, who's been in the league for over a decade.
I don't know that that's that big of a factor. Demario Davis is 6th in the list. Is he older than Bobby Wagner?
No way.
It's pretty close. Yeah, he is older than Bobby Wagner.
Demario Davis is?
He's 34.
Wow.
So
I could not care less about these things. Football in July. Could not care less.
I mean, I agree that it's not worth being unhappy about, but again, I do think
If
it
you
does
are
matter.
unhappy about this,
But also, but like
you
we
might
also
need to rethink some things.
we also got a measure of what the market thinks about Bobby Wagner. He signed with the Seahawks on a 1-year contract for what, like $6.5 million?
That's fine. I am totally fine with that. Bobby Wagner is going to be good. And I think this defense is going to surprise people. Even the thing that you mentioned, like when we're talking about this, how scouts view players, they're still viewing Tariq Woolen based upon his draft position. They're not viewing Tariq Woolen based upon, is Sauce Gardner in the top 10?
I mean, that's what was confusing about the Sauce Gardner's number 2. The particular
Do you think
comment.
the difference between their rookie years is that great?
Undoubtedly, it was not. The scout said, I had him ranked so high in the draft. The same scout that said, ceiling not as high as how he played last season, said, I had him ranked so high in the draft that when he slipped, I thought I was wrong.
Yeah, but he didn't mean he had him so high, like first round.
No, obviously.
And Sauce Gardner was a top 10 pick. Sauce Gardner is a beautiful meeting of where he was drafted and success.
Yeah.
And that's what scouts love.
But I mean, they should view that. I mean, there is predictive power to where you were drafted beyond your first season.
I think Tariq Woolen is going to be just fine.
I agree that Tariq Woolen is going to be just fine.
And I also think that Tariq Woolen's probably going to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL next year.
I think Tariq Woolen may not ever record more than 6 interceptions in his career again. Well, I also referenced Richard Sherman on that low post. It was a very Seattle sports heavy low post.
Yeah. What about him?
That I was referencing how Aaron Rodgers would never throw the ball his direction and how teams would ideally like to drag Victor Wembanyama out on the perimeter and just play 4-on-4 and let him chill out there if they could. Like as a defender. But I pointed out that the Packers didn't necessarily have that much strategy with that strategy.
No,
Much
kind of
success.
beat them all the time.
At Lumen Field, at the very least. Anyways, I don't know if Tariq Woolen will ever have 6 interceptions again in a season in his career.
That doesn't mean that he's a worse player, though.
Right.
The interceptions are not necessarily a factor.
Well, they're again. Why would you just say these statements that are wrong?
What is wrong about that?
Interceptions are a part of your value. Every interception is massively valuable to the team.
But Tariq Woolen is a good defender outside of the interceptions.
I agree. And
It wasn't like Tariq Woolen just had interceptions.
He
And that was
can
it.
continue to improve in those other areas.
How long has he even been a cornerback?
like 3 years.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I mean, it's particularly bizarre because the whole idea of drafting Tariq Woolen is, yeah, he might not be very good right away, but long term.
It's just a stupid thing that was said, and it was put on the internet, and now we have to respond to it. It's whatever. It's nothing.
Again, I think it represents a certain school of thought within the league.
That's great. There's a lot of things that represent a certain school of thought drafted a running back with the 11th pick in the
but
draft.
That still matters.
What does it matter to the Lions?
No, it matters to understanding what other teams are going to do and how they are going to value players. Which
We're
is
not
a thing
trying
that
to
matters.
trade Tariq Woolen. Literally, what are you talking about?
Well,
All
the
that
Seahawks
matters,
are eventually going to try to re-sign Tariq Woolen to extend him or re-sign him to a
tell you
contract.
this.
And how other teams value Tariq Woolen matters to that conversation.
If Tariq Woolen has the same year that he had this last year, anywhere close, he's going to get paid a lot of money.
I'm sure he will, but probably not as much as Sauce Gardner is going to get paid.
We will see about that. Things can change with cornerbacks very, very quickly. There are cornerbacks who are like, this is the number one shutdown corner in the league, and then overnight it can change. For a defensive player, reputation is probably more important than actual success.
Yes.
And Tariq Woolen has built up a very nice reputation. I'm a little surprised that somebody is saying that. It's literally just based upon draft position, and that's it. Like, what they were trying to say is, if what the scout is trying to say is, Tariq Woolen probably won't have as many interceptions going forward as he had in his rookie year.
Yeah, I already said that.
Maybe that's fine, but that's not about his actual ability.
I agree. Also, again, by definition, your rookie season can't be higher than your ceiling because the ceiling is the best you can possibly be. And if you can be that good,
But obviously,
by definition,
that
you
is
can
obvious
be that
that
good.
it's a stupid statement that you played higher than your ceiling. You played at 120% or whatever. Like, Tariq Woolen's ceiling is definitely higher than his rookie season. But I was looking at that and I was like, I think this is a stupid statement that this person made. I understand what they're trying to say, and they said the words wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said on Twitter. Okay, you need to stop saying these things as if you've had some profound thoughts when you repeat exactly what I've already said.
What did you say on Twitter? You think I'm reading Twitter? You think I'm out there being like, what does ESPN senior writer Kevin Pelton have to say on Twitter?
I'm sure that's what he's actually saying, and is possibly right. But words have meanings.
Yeah, words have meanings. But also, I don't necessarily think he's right. Like, why are we assuming that Tariq Woolen's going to get worse?
Again, we're not assuming that he's going to get worse. We're assuming he's going to get fewer interceptions because teams will throw at him less often. Although,
but also,
if Devin Witherspoon develops the way you
in fact, I think Tariq Woolen is going to get better. How about that? With this secondary, with this defense, Tariq Woolen was not in a great place as a defender last year. Tariq Woolen was on a fucking island with the defense. All of a sudden, Bobby Wagner is there. The pass rush is better. Devin Witherspoon's on the other side. This defense is better than it was, which makes Tariq Woolen's life easier next year. If Tariq Woolen isn't better than he was last year, I would be surprised.
Again,
do you understand what I'm saying,
or
though?
more valuable?
Both. But you're saying just because of the interceptions? Look, I don't think they're going to try to throw a pass to Tom Brady and Tariq Woolen's going to pick it off next year. But, like, it's a combination of both.
You know what? I'm confidently going to rule out Tariq Woolen intercepting a pass to
play
Tom
the
Brady
Raiders
next season. Confidently.
That is, I don't think Tariq Woolen's value is just derived from the interceptions, though.
But interception is worth like probably 8 passes defensed. Like, you have to be so fucking good at everything else to make up for an interception because a turnover is so valuable.
But just playing very good defense on every single snap is also valuable. There are a lot of snaps in the game, and one interception doesn't necessarily change a game that much.
I don't know if you've talked to Pete Carroll about the stats when teams have turnovers.
But also,
they are what they are.
Tariq Woolen might not have an interception, but if he plays good defense and Devin Witherspoon has an interception, if we have a sack, something like that, those things matter too. A punt matters. Punts are turnovers.
Again, I'm not saying that
don't talk to
any of
Pete
those
Carroll
things
about that, but punts are
don't
turnovers.
matter. I'm just saying they are way less valuable is those components than interceptions are.
Fair enough. I think there is a reasonable chance that going into next season, Tariq Woolen is part of this top 10 in this bullshit list that no one cares about.
Again, it's a valuable resource to understand how teams within the league are thinking about things.
This is the same shit we talked about with Mike Sando, where Russell Wilson was like ranked 20th best quarterback or whatever. It's like Russell Wilson just won the Super Bowl, but GMs aren't quite convinced yet. Just like, great.
I don't know what year you think that particular conversation was.
Okay, you didn't win the Super Bowl, but,
It was well after
but it was
the
still
Super Bowl.
like GMs love Matt Stafford. Like,
But that mattered because GMs gave up a first-round pick.
but GMs gave up more than that for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was maybe one of the best trades of all time.
Yeah, Russell Wilson had better seasons, and guess what? He moved up on the list.
Look at the list the year before.
Before Russell Wilson got traded?
He probably was pretty high the year before.
I mean, we would have to look at last year's list, right?
in
That
the
would reflect.
the COVID year, Russell Wilson's a fucking monster, at least for the first half.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think GMs might have downgraded him
When?
because of the second half of that year when he played hurt.
Well, clearly the Denver Broncos did not.
Still should have gotten more. Anyway,
Wow, should have gotten Pat Surtain number 1 in the quarterback rankings.
was he? Where was he? He was in there, wasn't he?
Number 1.
He was number 1. These things don't matter. They're literally a combination of mild success plus draft position. That's
That's what your value is, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Value doesn't matter. This isn't the fucking NBA. There are other sports besides the NBA, Kevin Pelton. Like, it doesn't matter what. This isn't fucking Bill Simmons' trade value column. Trade value doesn't matter in football. Are you aware of that?
Again, that
You're so
translates
consumed
into the
with fucking
contracts
trade value. No, it
that people
doesn't. Get past the idea of goddamn trade value. In the NFL, people care about the games that happen. They don't just play the games on text. This isn't James Harden getting traded every 3 years. Okay, motherfucker? Like, it is a different sport. Trade value is stupid in the NFL. Where was he ranked? Right,
Eighth.
8th.
But he was 4th the year before.
8th. And that motherfucker got traded for 2 first-round picks. Get out of here with your stupid trade value.
And ranked ahead of Deshaun Watson, who got more first-round picks
And a
than trade.
guaranteed contract. I think it is important to understand how people are viewing players in the NFL. I'm just not 100% convinced that these are like a be-all, end-all ranking. I think that it is an important thing to understand
Nothing is a be-all, end-all ranking.
how leagues are, how the other teams respectively are valuing players, but like value over contract is what matters also. And I think that's something that Tariq Woolen, when you view him vis-a-vis Sauce Gardner, if he's an honorable mention on a 5th-round pick contract versus a top 6 pick contract is a different thing. And that's not what this conversation about. This is about, because if we were judging strictly trade value, Tariq Woolen probably would have a higher
You're the one who
trade
introduced trade value into this. I'm just saying how teams value you influences the contract you get.
I agree, but what I'm saying is the contract that he's currently playing on, Tariq Woolen is a more valuable player than Sauce Gardner.
I mean, probably not just because of the fact that he actually can renegotiate a year faster. So
This season,
he's going to get paid.
He is going
next
to have
offseason.
Tariq Woolen is going to have a higher value
The other thing
over
we
his
should-
market rate
the
than
other thing
Sauce
we
Gardner
should
is,
mention
though.
with Tariq
Sauce
Woolen.
Gardner is being paid probably fair market value.
Tariq Woolen is coming off a knee surgery. It was not a serious one. He should be fine for training camp, et cetera, et cetera.
The
It's still
issue
not
is just
ideal.
the issue here is just the scout that is. This is not Jeremy Fowler. This is the scout saying the word ceiling, and literally Tariq Woolen's ceiling at this point is the best cornerback in the NFL.
Of course.
And look, there are a lot of players who that's their ceiling.
I don't know if there's a lot. There's a good number of
There
players.
are probably 20 players who their ceiling
Yeah.
is that. So saying that somebody is they have played already past their ceiling is obviously an absurd statement.
Yeah.
That it's scout speak. But like Tariq Woolen could be the best cornerback in the NFL next year. It wouldn't be shocking.
Of course.
And if he is, the excess value that you're getting from Tariq Woolen's contract for drafting him as a 5th-round pick is one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
So that's all that I'm saying.
Okay.
I think Tariq Woolen has the most trade value of any player in the NFL after Jackson Smith and Jibba.
Oh boy, on that note, we've gone almost an hour and a half on this bi-week podcast.
You fucking had to get me riled up about Tariq Woolen.
I didn't force you to get. You got me riled up.
You almost hit me.
I was not going to hit you.
It's close. It's close there. Things are dicey.
I did say there was a conversation at dinner the other night about getting in fights, and I said that you're the only person I've ever hit in my life.
When I was crushing you at Monopoly?
Oh no, I think I just knocked over the table. Then.
No, you pushed me in the head. You don't remember this?
Was that night?
It was Sonics versus Jazz, I want to
Yeah,
say.
that sounds right.
Sonics Jazz on a Saturday night at Katie's house.
It was cousin Katie's house, yeah.
Yeah, before you lived there.
Correct.
And you were so mad that I was beating you in fucking Monopoly
Can't
that you pushed my forehead back.
Can't play Monopoly.
And I was like,
Kyle was very scared.
I don't know what to do with this information. I was like, can I retaliate? So I'm the only person you've thrown hands with?
I think so.
It's been a while. Until we had this Treac Woolen conversation. The great Treac Woolen fight.
On that note.
Thanks for listening.